Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Mixed Martial Arts channel. We are here today for a breakdown of the UFC London card, Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady, that just took place today. I just finished my fight companion and I'm going to break down the full card for you, starting with the main event all the way through to the final or first prelim of the night, if you want to talk in chronological order. I'm going to be giving my breakdown of every single one of those fights to my best abilities. Obviously, there will be some fights that I only saw a little bit of in the prelims, or I don't know a lot about the fighters' careers, so take that with a grain of salt. However, got plenty to say about the main card, which is why we start with that stuff, because it's the more juicy things to talk about. So be sure to go check out the Fight Companion if you want to see any of my live reactions to it. There was a lot of fun things that happened in this card in terms of quick finishes or sudden moments that make for a lot of funny reactions and chat interaction and stuff like that, so I would advise you go and check that out. But let's get straight into it with the main event of Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady. Okay, so I am here with you guys. It is 12 p.m. I got up at 3 a.m. to watch this card, and here we are now. It finished at like 11:30. Sean Brady is him. Leon Edwards is a bum. And Bilal Muhammad is having his career look better and better by the day, unfortunately. However, Sean Brady is now ranked number 1 in the world. I want to see Bilal Muhammad versus Sean Brady too. And if Jack Della Maddalena wins against Bilal Muhammad, I think I want to see Sean Brady versus Jack Della Maddalena. I'm fucking terrified for Jack Della Maddalena in that fight. I think Sean Brady has all of the weapons to beat him. Doesn't mean he will. I'm not saying that Jack can't win that fight. He certainly can. He's got really, really underrated ability to get up from takedowns and suddenly get out of really, really dominant positions. Like Gilbert Burns had him in dominant grappling positions. And even when he finished Gilbert Burns, he was stuck in a very, very harsh position. He managed to flip himself around and walk the cage to get up. And, you know, he's got very dynamic takedown defense and offensive grappling, if that makes sense. He doesn't grapple offensively, but it is defensive grappling is what I'd call it, because it's once you are stuck in a grappling situation with Jack, he's pretty good at being able to just, whether it's a sprawl or a blitz or a scramble or whatever, he's able to just kind of buck his way back to his feet and use just kind of raw power. Now that will make you gas out pretty quickly if you're doing that for a long time, so I would worry about Jack in a Sean Brady matchup for that reason. But this was an incredible performance by Sean Brady. He mauled Leon. It was absurd, the level of it. I predicted that Leon would win by a decision. However, the moment before the fight started and in the lead up to it, the whole time I've been saying, I want Sean Brady to win. And I think he can win. I think Sean Brady probably is better than Leon. But something was just telling me Leon would drag this out to a long, boring, cage-clinching decision where he just spends the whole time trying to counter-strike on the feet or something like that. That may have been the case. That may have been how Leon came into this fight, like the game plan that Leon had coming into this fight. But Brady just, I don't want to say he threw his classic game plan out the window, but dude came forward heavy with striking on the feet in the early parts of the fight. Really, really took it to Leon on the feet. Even got some of the better moments on the feet. Arguably, he got the biggest moment of the fight in terms of striking on the feet, with that beautiful 1-2 down the center that he got. And I think he followed it up with a third shot as well. He clipped Leon right on the chin with it perfectly. Now, Leon had some moments of his own, but they were far and few between. And immediately after the first round, we had a little bit of striking at the beginning, and then we started grappling for the last half of it. And Sean Brady was very dominant on top position, maintaining it, floating on top a lot, really managing to make sure that even with Leon scrambling and trying to get back to his feet and doing well at that, Leon was doing decent at that, Sean Brady just floats on top and always manages to stay in control. Very fucking impressive. Then we go into the second and third round. And the second round, Sean Brady literally shot for a takedown, Khamzat Chimaev style. 3 seconds into the round, he walks off the cage after the ref says fight. He walks off, shoots a takedown immediately. Gets Leon straight down to the mat within the first 20 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds of the fight. And stays there. And ends up getting 4 minutes and 50 something seconds of control time in that round. Mental shit. Now, normally in the MMA world, we are used to shitting on this kind of performance and being like, oh, we just laid on him the whole time, yada yada yada. No. If you watch this fight, you understand this is what we want to see when we say that we want to, when we describe a good grappler, this is what we expect. Because it's really good top control, solid takedowns, great transitions between the position when the guy's trying to get up to his feet, good submissions, offense, and ground and pound prowess is what I'm going to call this. Dude was pummeling Leon the entire time he was on top of him. He wasn't just laying on Leon, using ground and pound shots to keep the ref from stopping the fight, or from standing up the fight, sorry. He was active as fuck the entire time that they were on the ground. I think the numbers for this fight, I believe Sean Brady landed something like 220 of 270 total strikes. Now, the significant strikes was significantly less, something like 70 of 100 or 70 of 120 or something like that. But I don't care, because the UFC doesn't fucking count ground and pound strikes for some stupid fucking reason. And it's not like they were just light hammer fists to the side of the head. He was fucking pounding the side of Leon's head and digging hooks into Leon's ribs over and over again. In that position of like being in half guard across his body though, with the arm and the head isolated between his shoulder and his head, and ripping shots into the rib and then bringing it upstairs, and then ripping shots and bring it upstairs, and then sneaky downstairs again. People don't do this. Grapplers don't do this much in the UFC, and it's why we complain so much, because we know this is possible and doable and very entertaining when it's done. So, annoying that it doesn't happen more often. But Sean Brady dominated this performance start to fucking finish. He won every single round. I argue that round 2 was a 10-8 round because it was fucking 4 minutes 50 something of control time, and he threw, I gotta pull up the stats for this. I gotta find out just how many strikes Sean Brady landed in that round, because it was something just unheard of. 70 in round 2. Sean Brady got 4 minutes and 57 seconds of control time. He had 2 takedowns, got both of them, two takedown attempts and landed both of them. And his striking numbers, significant strikes, it says 19 of 22. Total strikes, it says 76 of 95. That is such a high accuracy rating as well. Of course, it's ground and pound, so it's hard to miss. But still, 76 strikes to Leon's 0 of 0. Leon didn't throw a single strike in the second round. He got wrestled for 5 minutes straight, accepted 76 blows, and didn't land a single fucking strike. That's a 10-8 round. How is it not? How is it not? Round 3, 4 minutes and 9 seconds of control time. Still insanity. And the striking numbers in this round were 14 of 21, when round 2 was 19 of 22. This one was 14 of 21, but the total strikes were 86 rather than 76 of 113. And Leon landed 3 of 4. He threw 4 strikes. Brady threw 113 in 5 minutes. Fucking unheard of. I'd love to know, have an example of who did this. Who has dominant grappling like this and lands consistent ground and pound that is damaging as fuck? I don't think anyone does. And in round 4, it didn't last very long, but he already landed 12 of 18 strikes on Leon, and Leon landed 0 of 2. So he got 1 minute and 10 seconds of control time. I think the round lasted about 1 minute 30. 1 minute 39, there you go. Just take this in for a moment and appreciate that we do have some grapplers in this sport. Let me not fuck up my chair. Some grapplers in this sport that actually do care about performance, and they do care about activity, and they train to fight, not to lay and eventually look for a submission or to hope that you get points victories based on control time. He was looking to finish the fight the whole time. Sean Brady was looking to finish the fight the entirety of the time that he spent in that octagon with Leon Edwards. You don't throw 221 total strikes. 221. You don't throw that many strikes if you're not looking for a fucking finish. And then he went for a submission attempt in the 4th round and got it immediately. Now, the finish was insane because Sean Brady, literally, the best example I can give of this is I've got a water bottle here. I don't think I have anything that's more of like a human head shape, but this will have to. Oh, this will have to. Sean Brady is in that same position that I mentioned to you before, where he's in like kind of a semi-half guard on top of Leon, and is almost in like an arm triangle position. Say this is Leon's head, okay? We'll use the bottom of it because it's bigger. This is Leon's head, okay? Brady's on top of him, and Leon's head is here. Leon's back is on the canvas. Brady's on top of him, and their heads are side by side. And Brady literally is arm over like this with Leon's head next to him, and Brady just slips his arm around and locks in a guillotine like that. Now, when the fuck do you see people not pull guillotines, but set them up from top position? That doesn't fucking happen. People pull guillotines from bottom guard when they suddenly manage to grab a hold of your head because you gave it to them or something. Brady is in top position in half guard, and he just decided when he had his arm over the top like this, fuck it, I reckon I can slip this under my armpit. Yeet! Under she goes. And then now he's like this, one arm in. It was a one-arm guillotine, and he's just cranking on it badly. And then eventually he managed to get his other arm in just enough to grab it and finish it. But Leon was so unaware of that. Like, it was obvious to a degree. I'm not trying to say that Leon has no idea what's going on. I'm not a fighter, but you know what I mean. I saw it coming. I was like, oh, that guillotine's getting close. He's got one arm on it, and he's got one arm, like, actually choking Leon with one arm. And then we're like, this guillotine's getting really close to being finished, and he's only using it with one arm. And then all of a sudden, that second arm comes in and locks, and we're like, oh, it might be done here. And it was. Leon tapped. The fight was over. We have a new number one ranked person in the welterweight division. Who'd have fucking guessed that? It was meant to be JDM versus Leon. JDM got put into the Bilal fight, and Sean Brady gets a 3.5 week notice chance to become number one in the world when he was like number 6, and he fucking did. He did it. And now we have Leon's going to be at 2, 3, or 4, something like that, probably 2. And Sean Brady is going to be in the pound for pound rankings, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is Leon still in the pound for pound rankings? Because if he is, you should put Brady in there. If he is, you should put Brady in there. Because he just beat the guy that used to be pound for pound like number 4. Leon Edwards is number 12. I think you got to put Sean Brady in the pound for pound rankings now. Probably not in 12, but I think you drop Leon out and you boost Holloway, O'Malley, and Charles Oliveira up one spot, and you put Brady in 14 or 15. You know what I mean? I don't see how you don't. After he just beat Leon like that, dominant as fuck. Like, not even just like, oh, we got him with a submission in that 4th round after beating him 2-1 in the first 3 rounds. It was 3 rounds, pure domination, 10-8 in the 2nd round, and in the 4th round, continued that pure domination without slowing down in the slightest, and then turned it into a guillotine and finished it off. In his hometown, on short notice. In Leon's hometown, on short notice. To me, that's... Oh, I don't know if actually... I think Manchester might be. I don't know. But in his home country. In Leon's home country. I am ecstatic about that. I don't know if I seem very excited. Maybe in my reaction I seem more excited. I jumped out of my chair and squealed about it. But boy, the welterweight division just got interesting. After being a little bit boring for a while, thinking we're stuck with like Ian Gary, Leon Edwards, Colby Covington, and Bilal at the top. Now, it's looking a bit more like, okay, Bilal's a champ, but we got Shavkat, okay, we got JDM, okay, we got Buckley, okay, and now we got Sean Brady at number 1 all of a sudden. Buckley, we thought, was having a quick rise to the top. Brady just beat Gastelum, got a Gilbert Burns matchup, beat him, and then all of a sudden they were like, we need someone to fight the number 1 in the world. It's going to have to be you. And he fucking mauled him. Not even just got a lucky win and gets to number 1. Mauled him. And this is a guy that we consider to have some of the best takedown defense in the sport. Not even just in his division. People thought that Leon Edwards had the best takedown defense in the sport. Just how bad is Kamaru Usman? Just how bad is Colby Covington at this point? And is Bilal Muhammad even that good? Because Sean Brady, while he got finished by Bilal Muhammad, and I understand that, we've heard a lot about the reasons for that, and we know that he hit Brady in like a weird part of his head. I'm not trying to diss Bilal and say this and just explaining it. That kind of made Brady a little bit, gave him a bit of shock to the system, and he folded, and he did give up in that moment. He crumbled. He didn't tap, but like he just had no response and was not throwing back on the feet with Belal, and Belal just pressured him and just beat the fuck out of him. But Belal ain't done that to Leon. Y'all watch that Leon fight? I'm pretty sure it was 3-2, maybe 4-1 Belal, but probably 3-2. Very, very close. Belal almost got finished in the 5th round by Leon Edwards. There wasn't a second that Brady almost got finished. There wasn't even a round that he lost. There wasn't even a round that you could have considered he lost. There wasn't a round where he didn't double Leon's output in strikes. Every round he doubled his output in strikes at this point. Round 1. It says 20-19 in favor of Leon. That's for significant strikes. We're talking total strikes in this fight because for some reason they just don't count ground and pound properly. 20-47. Round 2, 0-76. Round 3, 3-86. And round 4, 0-12. More than double in every single round. The last 3, so more than double in the first round. Last 3 rounds, it's infinite. Because it's 3 versus 86. What's that? Fucking 30 times the strikes? And 0-12 is infinitely more strikes. And 0-76 is infinitely more strikes. So, at this point, I want to see the rematch between Brady and Belal. Maybe, if JDM beats Belal, maybe you do Sean Brady versus Belal 2 as the winner gets a title shot while you give Shavkat JDM. I don't know. I don't think that's the way to do it. I think that Shavkat should have to fight someone else now at this point because he beat Ian Gary, but it was a very close fight. And he's been out on an injury. He's been given a title shot before, had to pull out from it, and now he's had to hold up the division again and force, I'm happy about it, but force JDM into being the next contender when Shavkat was meant to be getting the shot. And he didn't because Belal pulled out of the last fight, and now Shavkat pulled out of this one, or said he's not available for this one in the first place. So, if anything, you probably do JDM versus Belal, winner of that, faces Brady, and Shavkat fights someone else in the meantime. But what a fucking turnaround of this division in the last year. I'm very, very excited for it. Since 299, where JDM beat Burns, we've been getting a bunch of new contenders into the top part of the rankings ever since then. JDM did that, and then all of a sudden, Shavkat jumps up there. All of a sudden, Buckley jumps up there, and now all of a sudden, Sean Brady has jumped up there too. So, good shit from fucking Sean Brady. Dominant ass performance. I'm excited to see the rematch and see if maybe he did have a bit of a wilty moment and maybe he can do better against Belal in the next fight. If that Sean Brady shows up to fight Belal, I think he beats him. Or at least it's very competitive compared to their first fight, which was not. So, I'm excited to see it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Okay, in the co-main event, Jan Blachowicz got robbed. It was 2-1, arguably 3-0 to Jan Blachowicz, okay? We need to stop scoring tappy outside low kicks. Please, for the love of fuck, can we stop scoring these terrible, terrible striking styles well? Why are we giving Carlos Ulberg all of these strikes when he's just 50 of 55 leg kicks? Yeah, he landed those. Why are they significant strikes? They should not count as significant strikes. If you don't count fucking Brady's ground and pound as significant strikes, you best not count Carlos Ulberg's dog shit inside low kicks as significant strikes. And yet here we are. Round 1, Jan Blachowicz outlands Ulberg, 18-15. Okay? If we want to talk about total strikes, it's the exact same number. Round 2, 16-29 in favor of Ulberg. 16-29 total strikes as well. Round 3, 31-25 in favor of Ulberg. Now, if we look at where those strikes came from, round 2 is headshots 6-6, body shots 2-3 in favor of Ulberg, and then leg is 8-20 in favor of Ulberg. Jan's leg kicks were hard as fuck, and I said this when I was watching the fight. Ulberg's best leg kick of the whole fight was not as good as Jan's worst leg kick of the whole fight. That's just like, it's what it felt like watching it, man. It's absolutely what it felt like watching it. So I got something in my eyebrow. Still got something in my eyebrow. Okay. It's absurd that we're counting this stuff as dominant attacks. In round 1 as well, they were 14-12 on leg kicks in favor of Jan. Jan's were so much harder. So much harder. Round 3. We've got 25-31 in favor of Ulberg. 8-11 in favor of Ulberg for head strikes. 7-2 in favor of Jan for body strikes. And then 10-18 in favor of Ulberg for leg strikes. But again, Ulberg's were fucking terrible. And Jan was chopping the shit out of his leg. So you might look at the striking numbers of this fight and think, well, yeah, it makes sense that he won at 29-28. But nah, man. You gotta consider more than just, oh, he touched him there. All right, cool, that one counts. Oh, he touched him there. That one counts. Because they're going leg kick for leg kick. The whole fight, they're going leg kick for leg kick. And when they're doing so, Jan is fucking chopping him down like a tree. Calf. He's ended up going shin to shin with Ulberg multiple times because he's just bombing these fucking leg kicks at him. And Ulberg starts checking them. And eventually, Ulberg stops checking them and starts picking his leg up because it's hurting too much to check them. He'd rather just pick his leg up and have it slap his leg rather than either A, be planted on his leg when it connects and really hurt, or B, try and check it and have it still hurt anyway, and Jan's just going to march forward. He doesn't give a fuck if you check a leg kick. Okay? So, we just need to really consider, I say we, I'm talking about the judges, but they don't give a fuck, they ain't going to listen. Got to consider what the fuck we value in scoring. What is actually worth giving someone a round for in terms of power, damage, and output. Okay? Because the power was on the favor of Jan. The damage was on the favor of Jan. But the output was in favor of Ulberg. Are we really going to give value to output over damage and power? If someone has clearly won 2 of those criterias, we're going to favor 1 in output. If you had to favor 1 out of power, damage, and output, it would be damage. And then output. Maybe power before output, but probably damage, then output, and then maybe power afterwards. Because if you consider damage, consider output, they're still similar. Now you consider who had more power. I think that's a pretty fair way to do it. But you don't go, okay, who had more output? This guy was ahead, cool, we don't need to consider the damage then. What the fuck? No. You go, this guy was ahead, cool, let's consider the damage. Oh, that damage was way better for that guy. Okay, we need to consider the power as well, because one guy had better output, one guy had better damage. Oh, that guy had better power too, as well as the damage. Cool, he wins that round. I don't understand it. I don't know what we want the sport to be. I don't know what the judges want this sport to be at this point. Like, what are you fucking trying to build as a product? What are you trying to promote? There was multiple bad decisions on this card, and granted, there was a lot of close fights, so some of them were very, very, very fair to be close decisions, and you can't be that mad if they didn't go the way that you expected them to, but still, it is annoying and it is what it is. But Jan Blachowicz won that fight. Carlos Ulberg, I was fucking rooting for you after you knocked out Alonzo Mennefield in 12 seconds. I obviously knew at the time that it was probably a bit of a fluky performance, but I was still willing to be like, hey, let's give this guy a fucking benefit of the doubt and see how he goes. You lost against Vucenic. You lost that fight. And you got gifted the decision. And you just lost against Jan Blachowicz. And you got gifted the decision. I am an Australian. I support you. Because you are also... I think he might be Kiwi, actually. But he's one of the two. He's one of the two. Let me find out where the fuck he's from. Carlos Ulberg is from... New Zealand. I'm an Aussie. I support my New Zealand fighters. Dan Hooker is one of my favourite fighters in the UFC. He's a Kiwi. Okay? Kai Kara France is a Kiwi. A lot of the Australian fighters that people mention as Australian, that people would be surprised that they're actually Kiwis. But I can't support that, man. I can't support you after 2 terrible robberies. I just can't. So Jan Blachowicz should have won that. He should be coming off of a win. Some people would argue now that Jan Blachowicz should have beaten Puja, then Pereira, then Ulberg. That's pretty fucking insane to be on the bad end of 3 decisions in a row. One becomes a draw, one becomes a split decision that you lose, and the other one becomes a unanimous decision that you lose when you clearly won it arguably 3-0. So, I don't know what else to say about this besides Carlos Ulberg, you are a disappointment. You're a disappointment and you're being rewarded for it. I'm sorry. Moving on. Okay, below that, we had 45-70 himself. I actually live scored this fight to Gunnar Nelson, but I said it was very fucking close, and I really wasn't sure. I was kind of more just hoping Gunnar Nelson would win, because I really wanted to see Kevin Holland get cut from the UFC, because he probably would have if he was 1-4 in his last 5 fights. It actually might be even worse than that. Let me see if it's even worse than that. I think it might be worse than 1-4 in his last 5 fights. If he had lost this fight, he would have been 1-5. He was already 1-4 in his last 5 fights, but now he's 2-4. He arguably should have been 1-5, but Gunnar Nelson didn't quite do enough. He fucking brought the battle to him and made it a very, very tough fight. Almost got finished in the first round, but the buzzer saved Gunnar Nelson there. After he mauled Kevin for the entire round, that was the round that I gave Gunnar Nelson. And then the second and third were closer and harder to score. Evidently, they gave Holland the second and third round, I believe. So it is what it is. I don't have much to say about it because it wasn't that fun of a fight. It was okay. Gunnar Nelson just spent a lot of time on top of Kevin Holland. Holland just constantly tried to throw up arm bars and omoplatas and arm triangles from his back. They never worked. Some of them got kind of close, but not really. There was at one point, Gunnar Nelson, I think in the third round, got really close to getting a rear naked choke in on Kevin Holland. Maybe it wasn't a rear naked choke, but I believe it was. I think he had a body triangle locked in on him. And that was I'm thinking of Sean Brady that got the body triangle, but he was really close to getting that choke on Kevin Holland in the third round. Didn't quite get it. Kevin Holland gets a decision. It's a very close fight. Is what it is, though. I kind of hope Kevin Holland gets a really tough matchup and loses next time. He's back at 170, which is why I'm not really that surprised that he won this fight, because he should win this fight, because he's a 170 pounder. He does not belong at middleweight, yet he insists on fighting at middleweight all the time. You're a fucking 170 pounder. I've said this many times, I'll say this again. You are middleweight height. You are middleweight reach, but you are not middleweight size at all. You are really tall and skinny. Really tall and skinny. If you can make the weight cut to 170, you should never be fighting 15 pounds up at middleweight unless you're permanently moving there and gaining weight, or you're doing a double champ opportunity and you're ready to risk being the smaller guy. You understand? You should not be fighting in 2 weight classes back and forth like you do Kevin Holland when they're 15 pounds apart and you are losing all the time in one of them. To be fair, he loses all the time in both of them. He's lost to Brunson, Vettori, Dolidze, and Derrida in middleweight. And that's 4. And at welterweight, he's lost to Chimaev, Wonderboy, JDM, and MVP. You could argue that Chimaev is an 85er now, so maybe you count that as you've lost to 5 85ers and 3 170 pounders. But still, and he lost to Brendan Allen as well. And Thiago Santos. What the fuck, bro? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 losses at middleweight, dog. And only 4 at welterweight. And one of them is a middleweight, so it's arguably 7. He's got 10 losses in the UFC. 7 of them are middleweights or someone who moved to middleweight after being at welterweight. One of them, Hamzat Chimaev. The other 3 are MVP, which is a really hard matchup. That's fine to lose. Annoying, but still. JDM, who's a fucking incredible boxer and just, to be honest, took it to you and beat you in your own game. And that's tough to accept, but it is what it is. And Wonderboy, who you decided to fight in his world, which was dumb as fuck. At welterweight, besides Chimaev, who is arguably a middleweight now anyway, you haven't had a bad career. And you haven't been finished. You retired against, you gave up on the stool against Wonderboy. You lost a decision to MVP and JDM. But at middleweight, you've lost by a choke to Rainer Derrida, injury to Dolidze, who grappled fucked you, choke to Hamzat Chimaev, it was at 170, but 185, but in round 1 Das choke. You got decisioned by Brunson and Vettori, and you got rear naked choked by Brendan Allen, and you got decisioned by Thiago Santos. It's just fucking stupid, to be honest. To me, it seems really fucking stupid as to why he's 14-10, and so many of those losses are at middleweight, man. Just stay at welterweight, dog. It's where you belong. Anyway, that's about it. I hope he loses his next fight because I want him to be humbled and realize he's not a good fighter because he thinks he is, and he couldn't even finish Gunnar Nelson when he knocked him down and almost knocked him out in this fight. The bell saved him, I'll admit that, but still, you fucking knocked him down badly and couldn't finish him. And that's just kind of annoying. And then you still go on to act like at the end of the fight, he goes, I am a 170 pounder, this is my division. But if anybody wants to strike with me at 185, let me know. But those guys that grapple up there are just too heavy, man. They're just too big. They're too big because they're not your size. Because you're not a 185er. Imagine if someone said, hey, I'm a 185. I fight at 185 because I can use my abilities up here good. But I'll only go to 170 if someone wants to grapple with me. Because if you're going to strike with me, like those guys have got too much light man skill in the grappling department. I just can't keep up with them. So if you want to grapple with me at 170, let me know. But otherwise, I'm going to stay at 185. What the fuck is wrong with you? Fucking disgrace to the sport. Shut the fuck up and fight in your weight class. It's just retarded. And he acts like he's good and just doesn't try sometimes and has just had bad decisions in his career. Nah, bro, you quit constantly and you make bad career decisions constantly. And you need to stop. This is the beginning of you stopping. You should continue to stop. Fight 170 pounders. Strike with them. Stop trying to throw up submissions off your back all the time if you could get up instead. Get the fuck up. You're not going to submit Gunnar Nelson off your back. He picked you up like a backpack, like a handbag, when you had him in an omoplata. His arm could have snapped in half, yet instead he picked you up with it. At that point, stop going for submissions. You got Michael Olajaychek with a submission, an armbar. You choked out Michael Chiesa, who gave up and tapped. And other than that, Tim Means. Oh no, we tapped out Tim Means. Oh no, and that was. Oh, yeah. I'm done talking about this fight. Let's move on. Molly McCann, Molly the Can, Molly McCan't, Molly McDonald's, Molly McCan't get a win, Molly McCouldn't. Sorry, been watching I watched MMA Guru's stream after that, and his donations were insane. Talking about somebody called Alexia Thainara a Francis Ngannou runaway child. Sorry, it's fucking accurate if you see what she looked like. But sorry, anyway. I predicted that Molly McCann would get armbarred in round 1 by Alexia Thainara. She got close. Thainara almost got into a position where she was going to set up an armbar, but didn't quite manage to get it. And then as they continued to scramble and get into more grappling sequences, Alexia catches her in a... Alexa, shut up. Alexa, stop. Sorry, guys. A fucking DJ... Alexa, just stop. DJ Alexa just fucking came in and so anyway, sorry. Molly McCann retired because she got finished in the first round. She got choked out by a rear naked choke. She got one choke in, Alexia Thainara, but it was on the chin, wasn't quite in properly. It was really close to being finished, and then Molly escapes it, but then immediately after that, Thainara just digs in an even deeper choke, and Molly couldn't get out of it and tapped to it. Got up, took off her gloves, retired. Paddy Pimblett was in the crowd crying, kind of sad. I was laughing. A mate of mine in chat was saying that she's a silly tart, and so I can't remember what else he was saying because I was pissing myself laughing at it. But she's just done. She's just done. I'm glad she retired because I said it beforehand. Like, she's gonna get cut from the sport if she loses. She will get cut from the sport if she loses. So it's probably better that she retires and goes out on her own terms. Rather than getting cut from the UFC, because that would be kind of unfortunate, to be honest. But yeah, she left on her own terms, so that's pretty good. But Alexia Thainara, welcome to the UFC. You got a round 1 submission in your debut. Good stuff. All right, up next, we had a very fucking sad thing to witness. Jordan Vucenic just got fraud checked, man. There's no other way to say it. Chris Duncan comes out. Jordan Vucenic versus Chris Duncan is the fight I'm talking about. Chris Duncan comes out in round 1, throws a nasty body kick against Jordan Vucenic, and as it lands, throws a monstrous shot right down the pipe, clean, right on Vucenic's chin, and Vucenic gets thrown across the octagon. Like, a good, 3 meters, 4 meters, he flies over and lands down on, one knee and one hand backwards, kind of, or almost kind of with his back turned, looking up, with Chris Duncan above him. Duncan kind of mauls him for the rest of that round, but Vucenic survives, comes into the second round. Vucenic is on the feet, doing pretty well, being better and smarter than Chris Duncan, getting out of the way of a lot of those shots. Duncan's kind of winging a lot of stuff and being a bit, aggressive and not thinking a lot of the things that he's doing through. Not that he was badly game planned or anything, but it was very like instinctual, throwing stuff out of nowhere kind of thing. And then, sorry, it's just disappointing. Let me just pull it up real quick. And then Vucenic decides to just dive in for... He tried to go in for one takedown earlier on in the night, and it was the most telegraphed takedown I had ever seen in my life. He ducked down, he's standing up, and he ducks and then shoots the takedown. It's so fucking obvious that Chris Duncan starts sprawling before Vucenic is even touching him because of how badly telegraphed it was. He survived that, even though it was embarrassing and terrible. He survived that, and then in the second round, he did a very similar thing, and he shot in on a takedown on Chris Duncan when Chris Duncan was beating him in the grappling the entire time. I know that you've got mainly submissions on your record, Vucenic, and it's where you're good, but you were beating Chris Duncan on the feet in your UFC debut against Guram. You lost the fight, but you were doing it entirely on the feet and keeping up with Guram Kudadladze. I said this at the very start of the night after Guram lost to that Kawe Fernandez guy and he got brutalized by him. I said, just how bad is Jordan Vucenic? I'm really worried. I don't know if he's actually going to survive tonight. Either Fernandez is insane and we have no idea, or Vucenic is actually not that good. And Guram was not that good of a test for him, and we actually did see a realistic fraud check by Guram on Vucenic, and I think that's true. He looked good in that fight, he looked fun, but in this fight he just stuck his head in a guillotine, going for a takedown, and tapped to it. Even worse, not only did he go for a takedown that he knew it wasn't going to work out for him, he got stuck in a guillotine with it, and he tapped to it. We all know that you can't tap to guillotines anymore, man. You gotta go to sleep. Please, for the love of God, you get an extra 4 or 5 seconds to try and get out of that guillotine. You get a chance to produce some more sweat. You get a chance to give up on fighting the hands and just go over the top and just try and rip that fucking guillotine grip apart. Anything. Tapping is just giving up. Okay? If you go to sleep, you go to sleep. And then you lost. And then, you got stuck in a guillotine. It's sad, but he got put out. You know, he went out on his shield. But when you fucking just tap like that, it's so disappointing, man. It really is. So, it is what it is. Vucenic got fraud checked. Chris Duncan looked incredible. He looked really fucking good. Scotland's got a very good prospect coming up the lightweight division now. He's got an underrated record that I didn't really realize until tonight, even though I literally was reading it during my prediction video. Kind of insane that this guy went 3-0 in Bellator against a 2-0 guy who he finished in the first round, a 14-5 guy that he finished in the second round, and a 6-3 guy that he finished in the second round. Comes on the Contender Series, loses to Vyacheslav Borshev, who is not bad at all, and then goes back to regional and beats a guy by decision, and then gets onto the Contender Series, knocks out Charlie Campbell in the first round, gets a split decision over Omar Morales, which is a bit questionable, gets a unanimous decision over Yanal Ashmuz, who is not that good, so it's a bit questionable, and then gets rear naked choked by Manuel Torres in the first round. So at that point, it is a bit weird. You got knocked out on the Contender Series, then you got a knockout on the Contender Series, then you had 2 decisions, and 2 weird decisions, and then got choked out in the first round. Kind of tough. But now back to back, he just got a round 1 guillotine over Bilal Gioki and a round 2 guillotine over Jordan Vucenic. So he's really building a pretty fucking good record at this point. He's actually 1-1 in the Contender Series and 4-1 in the UFC. So fair play to him. I hope to see him continue to do as well as he did. Rip Jordan Vucenic back to Cage Warriors with ya. Maybe you can come back and do better next time if you manage to get a couple more wins. I think he's still pretty young. He's 29. I don't think he's a lightweight. I said this. I've been saying this for weeks ever since this fight got announced. I don't like this. You fought at featherweight your entire career and did well at featherweight for your entire career. You've had lightweight fights before, but in the title contentions conversation, you were doing that stuff at featherweight, okay? And then you lost to Paul Hughes in the rematch, decided to go and fight a contender, beat a 6-0 contender in the second round at featherweight. Then you beat a 13-8 contender in the second round by rear naked choke at featherweight. And then you decided to fight another featherweight who was 10-4, beat him by Kimura in the second round. And then you fought one guy at lightweight, and that was at 159 pounds, and you guillotined him in the first round. So you had one lightweight fight and suddenly just decided that you were going to stay at lightweight. I think it's a fucking terrible decision, man. Seriously, a terrible decision. You've been at featherweight your entire career. You made the weight for featherweight a year ago. 8 days less than a year ago, you made featherweight. So it's kind of insane that March 2024, you make featherweight. But then in August of 2024, 5 months later, you can't make featherweight anymore. You can make featherweight, Jordan. You just didn't want to. You wanted to fight at lightweight for whatever reason. I'm not trying to say he's not allowed to do that. People are allowed to choose that, but I think he may have just thrown his opportunities at a UFC career away. So either A, he needs to go to featherweight in his next fight, if he has a next fight in the UFC, or he might have been cut. Like, he's 0-2 in the promotion, back-to-back. Decision loss, and then got finished in the second round. So it's tough. It's really tough. And yeah, there's not much else to say about that. It's really sad. Vucenic was a very good prospect that we were all had high hopes for, and he failed. Unfortunately. He's a 5'10" lightweight. It's not great, but as a featherweight, 5'10" is really good. He's got 73 inches of reach. That's 3 inches positive. Yeah, 3 inches positive reach, which is pretty solid. Not bad at all. He's 29 years old. He was 13-2 when he came into the UFC. Now he's 13-4. Very sad. Rip Jordan Vucenic. Good job, Chris Duncan, though. Okay, below that, we had a really good war of a fight. Not much to say about it. Just Nathaniel Wood and Morgan Charriere went to war. In the first round, Nathaniel Wood almost knocked Charriere out, like, immediately in the first minute or less, maybe 30 seconds. Hit Charriere with a beautiful, I believe it was a right hand, that hit him clean on the jaw, and Charriere just dropped like a sack of fucking potatoes. Nathaniel Wood fumbled the finish. He did chase him down to the mat and kind of gave Charriere a long time to recover, and Charriere did recover, and arguably won both rounds after that, in my opinion. It was very close. I'm not saying that I thought Charriere won clearly, but after he got brutalized like that in the first round, and then in the second and third round made it to a decision, it felt like to me he might have got one of those, but I was saying it could go either way, and that I could see it being 2-1 Wood, and maybe even, I think I might have said 3-0 Wood is possible, but I don't think that's what happened. But I believe on scorecards they did give it to Wood 3-0, so that's kind of tough. But Charriere looked okay. It's sad that he's gone down like this. He is now 2-2 in the UFC. Arguably, he should be 3-1. He could be 4-0 if he had got this fight, but he should be 3-1. He didn't lose to Shepe Mariscal. This is his first real UFC loss, so it's unfortunate to see. But hopefully he's obviously going to stay in the UFC. I think he got a crazy knockout in his last fight, and he's had performance bonuses in all 3 of his UFC fights before this one. So good job to him. Nathaniel Wood is really starting to build up a bit of a resume at this point. I really wish he would start to get some of these finishes rather than fumbling them all. Like, he's on a... Since 2020, when he got knocked out by John Dodson in the third round, he got a unanimous decision Castaneda, lost unanimous decision to Casey Kenny, unanimous decision W, Charles Rosa, W over Jourdain decision, W over Andrey Fili decision, lost to Naimov by decision, beat Pineda by decision, and then beat Charriere by decision. So he's had 8 3-round fights that ended in decisions in a row, and 2 of them were losses, but the rest of them were wins. So he's 6 and 2 in his last 8 fights. If you want to include the loss before that, he's 6-3. But in the UFC overall, he's 9-3, man. It's a really good record. As far as, realistically, it's a pretty fucking good record. So I'm excited to see more of Nathaniel Wood. I think he's probably due for like a ranking adjacent fight. So like you give him a fight against someone who is just outside the rankings, and the winner of that either A, gets bumped into the 15 spot, or B, they get given a ranked opponent after that. So good job to him. Rip Morgan Charriere, another Cage Warriors contender that we may have lost tonight. Both Vucenic, Molly McCann, Vucenic, and Charriere, all Cage Warriors alumni, all just lost back to back to back. Nathaniel Wood is also a Cage Warriors alumni, to be fair to him, and Old Mate isn't. Chris Duncan isn't a Cage Warriors alumni, so he managed to do that. But Nathaniel Wood fought in Cage Warriors for a while. He did beat another Cage Warriors fighter, so that's fair enough. But yeah, sad stuff. moving on. So we had Chris Padilla versus Dry Herbert. Really quick one, honestly. Very, very short. There was a nasty cut that Dry Herbert gave Chris Padilla at the end of the fight, at the end of the third round, right on the eyebrow. Busted him open pretty badly, but I gave Chris Padilla the first and second round. Dry Herbert came back and won the third, but it wasn't enough. I picked Dry Herbert to win this fight. I got that wrong. I went terrible on picks in this card. I went like 3-9 or some dumb shit like that. 4-9, whatever it is. Chris Padilla, I think he won the first 2 rounds. They were pretty boring rounds overall. Very slow paced. And I pretty much said in both rounds the same thing. Whoever wins the last minute of this round is probably going to get the round, because it's been a very even round on the feet. Not a lot has happened. There isn't a lot of scoring criteria to go off, but of what there is, it's essentially even. And in both those first 2 rounds, when I said those things, Chris Padilla got a hold of Dry Herbert at the end of the round, held him up against the cage, landed some nice knees to the thighs and controlled him. And while I don't like that, it wasn't the most inactive clinch work. And like I said, if somebody can get some active damage here, some active output, some active power, some active striking or grappling in this last 30 seconds, minute of the round, they're probably going to get it. And in both instances, Chris Padilla got that in the first and second round, grabbing a hold of Dry Herbert and putting a bit of a capstone on the round at the end of it. So he got that. It was a split decision, but I think I gave it to Chris Padilla pretty clearly. Below that, we had arguably fight of the year so far, man. Seriously. Flipe de Santos has got to be careful with some of the fouls that he's doing, but Kavanagh is a fucking monster, man, and I love him so far. I was really worried after his last fight with, I think it's Jose Ochoa is the guy's name. Yep. It went to a decision, so he had that really nasty round 1 knockout in the Contender Series, came in against Jose Ochoa and had a very slow fight, and it wasn't very active. It wasn't the most impressive performance, but he is 5'4". Jose Ochoa is 5'7". He's the same height as Felipe dos Santos, to be fair, and they're the same age. With the same, and him and Lonier have the same reach. So it's a bit interesting, but it wasn't the greatest fight. He did win it clearly, but I wasn't that impressed with it. However, this time around, this was a fucking banger fight. I can't remember what rounds were which now because it's been a while, but I gave this 2-1 to Lonier Kavanagh. Maybe it might have even been 3-0 to Dos Santos, but it was a very scrappy back and forth fight. Both guys were covered in blood. I think covered in each other's blood, to be honest. A lot of blood was coming from Lonier Kavanagh's head, but he was still the one winning the rounds, doing more damage. Dos Santos was having good moments and throwing up submission attempts and stuff like that, but again, wasn't quite enough to win him any of the rounds. Kavanagh is looking like a monstrous contender at this point. I'm very excited to see him continue at flyweight. Dos Santos might get cut from the UFC. He's 1-4 at this point. He lost to Manel Cap, and then he beat Victor Altamirano. He lost to Andre Lima, and now he's lost to Lonier Kavanagh. To be fair to him, Kavanagh, Lima, and Cap are 3 really fucking impressive fighters, so it's not the worst guys to have losses to. Cap was on short notice. He lost to him. Victor Altamirano, people argue he didn't win that, but technically he did, so, whatever, but that's a 12-3 guy. And then his next 2 losses, Lima and Kavanagh, are both undefeated prospects. So, and they're very touted in this division as well, very touted. So, unfortunate for him. Hopefully he gets maybe one more chance to fight in this division, to fight in this promotion and try and get another win on his record. He's only 24. He's only 24 years old. He's really fucking young. So hopefully he can get given another chance. Otherwise, he might have to go back to the regional scenes for a while and maybe make his way back into the UFC. But Lonier Kavanagh, man, I'm excited. I'm going to say that even though he's literally had 2 UFC fights, I think you give this guy, same thing as I said about Nathaniel Wood, you give this guy a fight that is either a fight just outside the rankings, where the winner gets bumped into the top 15 if they get a good performance, or you give him a fight against a guy just outside the rankings, and then the winner of that gets a ranked fight next. So I think that's what's next for Kavanagh, especially in the flyweight division. They might even give him a ranked fight next. I would not be fucking surprised if they did. I don't think they should, but they might, because there's not a lot of flyweight contenders right now. And Kavanagh's young as fuck, man. He's 25 years old, so it's going to be really insane if we see him get into the rankings this young, this quick in his career. He's only been fighting since 2013, to be fair. But 2013? 12 years ago. He was fighting when he was 13. What? Wait, June 1999. If he fought after June, then that makes a bit more sense in 2013. September. So since he was 14 years old, he had a professional fight when he was 14. Then he had one, he lost. Then he had one when he was, well, that's 2 years later, when he was 16, and he lost. Then he had another one when he was 16 and went to a no contest. Then he had, this is amateur fights, by the way. Then he had another one when he was still 16, won it. Then he had 2 draws in a row, one when he was 17, the other when he was 18. No, both when he was 17, 2 draws in a row. And then when he was 18 years old, gets his last contender amateur win. And then he goes on to become a pro in 2019. Fair enough. That's insane. He's been fighting since he was 14, cuz. That's absurd. Who's this guy? Who's this guy he fought? Doesn't even say his age. Got no clue. He's 5-1 apparently, but he's got no. It says he lost to Caolan Loughran in the Cage Warriors. How has this guy got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? How has he got 14 fights in his career that are all listed here, but no one knows his age? That's fucking weird, but it is what it is. Anyway, Lonya Kavanagh, congratulations. I'm excited to see what's next for you. Okay, below that, we're going to run through these last ones pretty quickly. Marcin Tybura. I thought he won against Mick Parkin, rounds 1 and 3. I felt like the rounds were close at times. I can see the argument for a Mick Parkin win there, but I did score it to Marcin Tybura live. It's unfortunate. I thought Tybura just Mick Parkin wasn't doing enough towards the end when he should have known that he needs to really push the pace here and try and get that 3rd round under his belt. It was close. The argument is there, I understand, but ultimately I did give it to Tybura. Parkin just didn't quite do enough. This was mainly fought on the feet. There was a tiny bit of grappling from memory, but this was primarily a stand-up fight, and Marcin Tybura just won it, unfortunately, over Mick Parkin. So I don't think Mick Parkin is going to do that well in the heavyweight division unless he gets another big win and takes some time to fucking get better, lose some weight, because he is now came into the UFC, got 1, 2, 3 decisions in a row. Jamal Pogues is shit. Kai Machado is shit. And Muhammad Usman is shit. And he beat Eduardo Neves in the Contender Series, who I don't know, but he was 5-0. The guy's now 8-3, so, since then he's not done well. He lost to Janata Deniz on the Contender Series as well, this guy, so unfortunate for him. But after that, then he fights Lucas Brzeski and knocks him out in the first round. Lucas is shit. And then he fights Tybura, the first pretty hard guy for him, and loses the fight, evidently. It wasn't the worst loss at all, don't get me wrong, but he did still lose the fight. So, unfortunate. Mick Parkin, you are only 29. That's not great, though. It's still pretty old to be doing this badly. So, I don't know. He's 6'4" with 79 inches of reach. He's not a small guy. He's a big, tall guy with good reach as well, but I'm not sure how it's going to go for him in the rest of his career. We shall see, but they're not going to cut him, obviously. It's his first loss, and he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-0 in the UFC, or 4-0 in the UFC, sorry. So I'm sure he's still got an opportunity to redeem himself, but he might get pushed out of the rankings from this one because he was ranked number 13. He just lost to number 8, so we'll see. But yeah, fair play to Marcin Tybura. Yet another fraud check on his resume. He's now got fraud checks over Mick Parkin, Janata Deniz. He beat Tai Tuivasa, Blagoy Ivanov, Alexander Romanov, Walt Harris, Greg Hardy, Ben Rothwell, Maxim Grishin, Sergey Spivak. He's got great fucking wins on his record. He's got a lot of UFC fights, dude. He's got 22, 14, and 8 in the division. He lost a lot when he was early in the UFC, hey? Holy shit. Holy shit. 1, 2, 3, 3. So he was 1-3. Then he goes 2, 4. He was 2-7 in the UFC at one point. Wait, no, he wasn't. What? Am I not reading this right? 2 and 5. 2 and 5. He was. Oh no. I'm doing this backwards. I sincerely apologize. He was 3-1 in the UFC at one point, and then he became 4-5 in the UFC, and then from then he went from being 4-5 to being 9-5, which is slower. Then he's 9-6, and then he's 11-6, and then he's 11-7. And then he's 12-7, and then he's 12-8, and then now he's on a 2-fight win streak, making him 14-8. So it's not the worst, but it's really not the best. He's ranked number 8 in the division. It's kind of crazy that he's ranked this highly with this many losses. He's lost to Volkov, Aspinall, and Spivak in the last 2 years, 3 years, 4 years actually. Sorry, So since before that, he was doing pretty well, but he's got a loss to Volkov, Aspinall, and Spivak, who are Aspinall and Volkov are like going to be two of the best fighters in this division for a few years, and Spivak is going to be a bit of a fraud checker for, I'd say, another good couple of years. He's only 30 years old as well. He's pretty young. He did just lose to Jelton Almeida, and Cyril Gahn before that, and Tom Aspinall and Tybura previously, but he beat Tybura in the rematch. So interesting stuff, but good job to Marcin Tybura, I suppose. Chris Duncan versus Andrey Pulyaev. Christian Leroy Duncan. I actually didn't watch this fight. I am really sorry. I haven't watched this fight, or the Caolan Loughran fight, or the Kawe Fernandez versus Guram Kudaledze fight. These are the first 4 fights of the night. I watched Shauna Bannon versus Puja Tomar. I just didn't get around to it, honestly, and it's very late. I need to go to bed. It's 1:30 p.m. and I'm saying I need to go to bed. That should give you an idea of what kind of schedule I had to run on to be here for this card. But Chris Duncan, I know what happened though. It was apparently a 30-26 scorecard, so I'm guessing that in that third round, Chris Duncan did really well, because I believe it was only just 2 basic rounds up for Chris Duncan in the first 2. But he beats Andrey Pulyaev. Well done to Chris Duncan. He's now on a 2-fight win streak in the UFC. 3? Oh no, he lost to Gregory Rodriguez in his last fight. Wow. I thought that was a couple fights ago. So he beats Dusko Todorovic, and then loses to Armin Petrosian, shit. Beats Tennis Loughran, who's shit. Beats Claudio Ribeiro, who's pretty bad. Loses to Gregory Rodriguez, which is a good loss to have, and then he beats Andrey Pulyaev. So fair play to him. He's now 4-2 in the UFC. He was risking becoming 3-3, and arguably would have been 1 fight away from getting cut at that point, but he's doing okay. So we'll see how he goes from here on. Next up, we had Shauna Bannon versus Puja Tomar. This was hilarious. This was fucking hilarious. Puja Tomar literally sparked Shauna Bannon out cold with a head kick, and yet couldn't get the finish. Or she actually, here's the thing. She got the finish. She won. Puja Tomar won this fight. And then the ref just decided not to stop it. And Shauna Bannon woke up mid-ground and pound and was like, oh, I'm alive. The fight's still going? Sick. And then grab a hold of this girl. Grabs a hold of her, minimizes the ground and pound, manages to turn it into an armbar. A fucking armbar. And Puja Tomar's fighting her way out of it, getting really close to escaping it, and almost does. And then Shauna Bannon just manages to grab a hold of the position again, realign herself into the armbar, cinch it in, roll over, and she rolls over into a position where, rather than having herself legs up in the air trying to pull Puja Tomar's arm into her guard, she ends up flipping Puja Tomar onto her back on the mat where her arm is extended out, and then she has to tap because her arm is trapped in that side, and she's no longer fighting getting her arm back out of an arm bar that's like she's standing over her opponent. So Shauna Bannon, I am sorry, but I belly laughed. I genuinely belly laughed. I was in bed watching this fight, okay? And I was looking at my phone, and as soon as that head kick knockout happened, I went, whoa, okay, what the fuck, India? You finally won one. And then she didn't get finished, and I'm like, oh no. And I see Shauna Bannon chasing the armbar, and I'm thinking, please let Shauna Bannon fucking get this upset win back here, off the back of that. Basically a finish is what it was. And then the moment that I saw her flip into the second version of the armbar, where Puja Tomar is actually on her back, I was like, oh, there's no way she gets out of this one. Starting to giggle a bit, and she tapped, and I genuinely belly laughed in my bedroom. At fucking whatever that was, 4:30 in the morning, 4 in the morning or something like that, when I woke up to watch this card. So good stuff from Shauna Bannon. I don't know that she's going to do that well in the UFC, honestly, but she got her win, so that's good. Puja Tomar has lost now. Indian MMA is fucking dead in the water at this point. It's kind of insane. So she came into the UFC, won a split decision over Rayanne Amanda, who the fuck that is, so it's 14-7, and then gets armbarred in the second round by Shauna Bannon. So I bet they give her one more chance in the UFC. I'm sure they'll give Puja Tomar another shot. I doubt she has more than a 3-fight contract. She could, but I doubt, especially because she got a split decision in her first fight. I doubt they renegotiated anything more. If she was only on a 2-fight contract, I doubt that they renegotiated. So she could get cut here. or she may have one fight left. So good luck to her. Hopefully she can turn it around and possibly secure herself a win in the UFC to keep her career alive. But rest in peace, Indian MMA. You lasted a total of less than 2 years, and you will probably not be missed. Not because anyone hates you, but because no one really knows you. Sorry. Below that, I'm going to literally talk about this in 30 seconds. Apparently, Caolan Loughran got a robbery win. Supposedly, Nathan Fletcher should have got this win, and he got robbed. So I'm going to quickly look at the striking numbers of it and confirm, because I'd like to see whether that's somewhat accurate or not. I picked Nathan Fletcher in this fight. It looks like he outstruck him in every single round. He did. Okay. Round 1, 15-12 in favor of Nathan Fletcher. They're pretty even on strikes. The only difference is that Nathan Fletcher landed more low kicks. Round 2, 20-3 in favor of Nathan Fletcher. 18-3 in head strikes, 2-0 to the body. And round 3, 24-15 in favor of Nathan Fletcher. 15-10 on the head, 7-5 on the body, and 2-0 on the legs. What was the control time like? So, what? Round 1, Caolan Loughran got 2 minutes of control time. Maybe he won that round based off that, I guess. Sure. And then in round 2, Nathan Fletcher got 3.5 minutes of control time, which is where all those strikes came from. Oh, and if we want to talk total strikes, it was way, way, way different. Total strikes round 1 was 20-24 in favor of Loughran, so he probably won that round, I would imagine. Round 2, the strikes were Nathan Fletcher 64-14 with 3.5 minutes of control time. That's crazy. And then round 3, it's 24-15 on the significant strikes, but in favor of Fletcher, but it's 30-27 in the total strikes in favor of Loughran. And Loughran got 3 minutes of control time. So that's kind of interesting. I bet that actually is a harder fight to predict than I thought. Than most people are willing to admit. But hey, Caolan Loughran is now 2-2 in the UFC. He beat Angel Pacheco and lost to Taylor Lapulus and Jake Hadley. Jake Hadley came up a weight class on short notice to beat you and outstruck you. So that's a fucking terrible loss for you. Rest in peace, Nathan Fletcher's hype train, I guess. Yeah, he came in and got an arm triangle in the second round in his UFC debut last year. And now he's had that. So maybe he comes back next time. But yeah, fair enough. Weird ass decision. And lastly on the card, Caolan Fernandez mauls Guram Kudrladze for the entire fucking fight. And this was, from what I've heard, a pretty ugly fucking performance from Guram Kudrladze. And it's really making people question, like I mentioned earlier in the video, just how bad is Guram Kudrladze and just how bad was Jordan Vucenic. It was round 1 was 7-26 in favor of Caolan Fernandez. Okay. Round 2 was 9-30 in favor of Caolan Fernandez. Round 3 was 13-23. And if we want to talk about control time, there was none in round 1. There was a minute for Caolan Fernandez in round 2, and there was 30 seconds for Caolan Fernandez in round 3. He got 1 takedown in rounds 1 and 2. Rounds 3 and 2. In round 1, Guram shot 3 times and didn't get any of them. And in round 2, he shot twice and didn't get any of them. And Caolan shot once and got 1. And in round 3, Caolan shot once and got 1. So, yikes. We want to talk about where those strikes landed on the body. We're talking round 1, 14-3 in terms of head strikes, favoring Caolan Fernandez. Even on body strikes, 7-1 on leg strikes in favor of Caolan. We've got 15-6 for head strikes in round 2 in favor of Caolan. 3-7 body strikes in favor of Caolan. 0-8 leg strikes in favor of Caolan. Round 3, 7-11 head strikes in favor of Caolan. 4-4 on body strikes and 2-8 in favor of Caolan on leg kicks. Yeah, rip Guram and his hype train, and the Georgians are not rejoicing right now. I can tell you that for free. Bro came in and beat prime fucking Matoj Gamrot in his debut. Mental. And then in a split decision, though, to be fair, it's a bit of a weird one. And then loses a split decision to Damir Ismagulov. Not great. and then gets knocked out by Elvis which isn't the worst, but still, we know that Elvis isn't that good now. And then he beats Jordan Vucenic in a very close fight, where Vucenic technically outstruck him. But there was a lot of control time, 4 minutes from each guy control time there. And it came split across the rounds in kind of weird different ways. But round by round, Vucenic fucked him up in the first round, and then Vucenic lost the next 2 rounds. So, unfortunate for him. But, Vucenic, man. What a sad story. Rip Vucenic. But yeah, Rip Garam. Welcome Cowie Fernandez, I guess, hey. And that is going to be it for the breakdown video today. Thank you guys for being here. I hope you did enjoy. Be sure to go check out the Fight Companion to see any of my live reactions rather than just my breakdowns of it. There may be some more videos coming from the event as well. Me talking about stuff, me reacting to stuff. Not sure yet, but we shall see. Leave a like. Subscribe, don't notifications so you don't miss any uploads or live streams. When I live stream, you'll be notified 30 minutes before they start and when they start. So next week we have UFC Mexico. That's going to be very fun, Mexico City. We've got Brandon Moreno versus Steve Osig. Sick. We've got Drew Dober versus Manuel Torres. That's sick. And we have Joe Pyfer versus Kelvin Gastelum. Raul Rosas Jr. is fighting, so that should be very fun. Please come and join me live for that one. I'd love to have you there. Join in chat. Discuss stuff with me, be a part of the community. It's very fun, and I love to have people talk to while I watch the fights and to give some insight to and discuss things. And you end up getting a little bit of involvement because you may sway my opinions on things, and you may give me insight to stuff where I change the way I talk about things in my breakdowns, or next prediction video for that fighter, I have a different take on it because you gave me a bit of nuanced insight. So I'd love to have you guys there. Let me know in the comments what your favorite fight of this card was. For me, it's got to be Kavanagh versus Flipe de Santos. And if it's not that one... Actually, no, it's not. You know what? It's not. Sean Brady versus Leon Edwards. I loved that fight, man. That was so fucking entertaining to watch. So that's my favorite fight. And then Kavanagh versus Santos is my second favorite, obviously. So let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. Thank you for watching. And I'll see you guys all in the next Mixed Martial Arts video. Goodbye.